Hey everyone, I'm Kelly Bargabas, and you're listening to All There Is. Hi, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in today. I want you to imagine for a second walking up to the hot new restaurant in town, or maybe one you've been going to for years and it's your favorite. Or imagine walking up to Wegmans or Trader Joe's, your bank, a music festival, a coffee shop, someplace, any place that is open to the public and seeing a sign that said, whites only, or men only, or straight people only. If I encountered a sign like that, I'd be horrified. I'm sure you would be too. I mean, it's 2026, and while we do have a history of exactly signs like these in our country, after decades and decades of fighting for civil rights, those offensive, exclusive, racist, sexist, homophobic signs are gone. And most of us would not patronize a place that excluded people based on the color of their skin, or their gender, or for any reason, really. My intention is not to minimize or diminish the reality that many in this country have lived through. For our parents' generation, signs like these were a reality, and it wasn't all that long ago. I acknowledge that. And it is only by the sacrifice of others and their blood, sweat, and tears, and sometimes their lives, that things have changed. But stay with me with this example as I make my opening point. Imagine what that must have felt like, or would feel like today, if you encountered signs like that. No Irish, no Italians, no Jews, no Christians. Almost unthinkable in today's culture. I started my working career in 1989-1990, and I can tell you that the Good Old Boys Club was in full swing. There were so many rooms where I was the only woman. I went anyway. I was unstoppable. There was plenty of misogyny, sexual harassment, chauvinism, and discrimination to go around when I entered the workforce. About 15 years into my career, I interviewed for a region manager job in operations, and the CEO at the time wanted to give me the job, but had concerns because I was a woman, and he told me so. I fought back hard and convinced him to give me a chance, and he did. While I held this position, I was on a team of all men. There were 4 of us plus our boss. And one summer day, we had a team golf outing at the Calvary Club in Manlius. I was a golfer, not serious, but good enough. We were at the first tee box getting ready to tee off, and a man from the pro shop came running out and stopped us. You see, it was 12:40 p.m., and women were not allowed to tee off until 1 p.m. I'm getting mad and outraged again just thinking about this story. I haven't thought about it in a long time. This was 2004-ish, so a little more than 20 years ago. Imagine, I was there with my colleagues, my team, at a work event, and I wasn't able to participate. I was furious at the rule, at the discrimination, and I was really livid that my boss, who was a member there, paid membership dues, did not fight back to allow me to tee off. He did not stand up for me. I was floored. We all stood around in a circle and waited 20 awkward moments until the clock hit 1 p.m. and I could tee off. It's outrageous. I will still not patronize that golf club to this day. Have you ever been denied access simply because of who you are as a person? Even though the signs are gone and illegal, there is still plenty of exclusion to go around. I'm not in denial about that. And there are still plenty of rooms I'm not welcome in because I'm not rich enough. I didn't go to an Ivy League school. I'm not a celebrity or whatever. And private events, they can do that. They can exclude. But imagine a public place, your favorite restaurant, one that you've enjoyed for many years, and you show up one day and you can't go in, can't participate because you can't move, can't walk the way others do. Maybe you're in a wheelchair now, or use a walker, or can't do steps. There may as well be a sign on the door that says, able bodies only, healthy only, no sick, no disabled. Seems outrageous, right? There'd never be such a sign. Yet, when your place is impossible to enter, the impact, the effect is the same as if there was a sign. If you know me or listen to all the seasons of All There Is, you know I've been an advocate for people living with disabilities for most of my life. I even wrote a book about it called Chasing the Merry-Go-Round, and that was about my brother Bobby, and most of that centered on those with intellectual disabilities, cognitive struggles, neurodivergence, and other invisible disabilities. There are a few episodes, especially in Season 1, on this topic. To be honest, though, throughout my life, I haven't personally struggled with physical disabilities or mobility, which has been a privilege. Health is a privilege that this world is built for. The built world is for healthy people. It wasn't designed with the physically impaired in mind. It is one of those things you do not think about unless life forces you to. And I get it. I was the same way until life forced me to. When my dad had his first stroke 2 years ago, I began to get a glimpse into this world, especially as my sisters and I took him to therapy appointments 3 days a week for months and months. Suddenly, that handicap tag became important. For a while, he could walk with a walker, but not too far. He was in pain, unsteady on his feet, and was falling a lot. After a second stroke, he was only taken out of the house in a wheelchair. We needed that parking spot with room to transfer him and a curb cut so we could get in the door. And beyond that, an accessible route to wherever we were going. Since it was medical appointments, most places were accessible. But I definitely began to see how you think different, plan different, how the simplest task is suddenly much harder, trying to figure out how you're going to navigate that trip to the dentist or doctor or restaurant or grocery store. All those things you take for granted when you're healthy. In November of 2025, my husband Craig was diagnosed with ALS after a few years of leg and arm weakness, gait issues, many falls. By the time he was diagnosed, his leg weakness had already progressed far enough where he really couldn't do stairs anymore or walk more than 10 to 20 feet at a time. He had already been using a cane, but suddenly we had 3 walkers, 2 wheelchairs, a mobility scooter, a wheelchair van, and stair glide at home. Nothing was simple anymore, including the ability to access all the places we still wanted to go. You see, even though Craig is sick, even though he now has this progressive and terminal disease that is stealing his life, even though we still have a lot we want to do, and we want to do it before he gets worse, before he is completely wheelchair-bound and immobile. We want to have all the dinners and drinks before the feeding tube. We want to travel and move around this world while he still can. I think the ticking clock makes it even more important. We have no time for places or events who will not make room for us or Craig's wheelchair. We have no time for those who could care less if we can get in, eat, drink, buy their wares. So we'll move on to find someplace else. A few weeks ago, we went to the Blues Fest at the New York State Fairgrounds. I took the time to research the event ahead of time and was so excited that they had handicap parking close to the entrance. We would take our new wheelchair van, Betty, and Craig would be comfortable and safe in his wheelchair all day while we enjoyed the sunshine, music, and even a beer or 3. When we pulled up, we were screamed at by the attendant that we had to keep moving. "We're here for handicap parking," I said, confident he just didn't understand what we needed. He dismissed us again and waved his hand, "Next right, next right." And I politely said, "No, my husband is in a wheelchair." Before I could finish my sentence, he yelled again, "It's full, no more parking, move on." He was so annoyed with us for even showing up at that gate. But we moved on to the regular parking lot, my mind already bouncing 3 steps ahead. Will we be able to unload? Will Craig be able to move across the field with his chair? Was there a bridge over the highway? Was it accessible? Would Craig be safe? Could we still enjoy this day out? I nicely explained the situation we were in to the attendant at the new parking lot, asked if they had any van accessible spots. They did not. At this point, I was deflated but determined. We asked the local attendant if we could take a different spot than the one she directed us to so we could deploy the van ramp and Craig in it in his wheelchair, and she agreed. Yes! She promised that she would keep the space next to us open. She was on duty for the entire shift. No worries. "I got you," she said. We went and enjoyed the day and had a great time. When we came back to the van hours later, The attendant did not, in fact, protect our space as promised. Someone parked tight right next to our door. We couldn't get the ramp deployed. We pulled the van out into the traffic throughway of the lot with cars coming and going, blocked traffic for a minute, and got Craig in. On the way out, I found the attendant. I stopped to ask her about not keeping her promise. She was immediately angry, defensive, and mean that I questioned her. She said things like, "Oh well, you made it work, didn't you?" She even blew me a kiss, twice, in a bizarre kind of F you motion. It was weird. I tried to educate her on why it was important to keep that space open for future reference. I tried to make her aware of why it was important. She did not care at all, and in fact was belligerently opposed to listening to me. And that was her privilege. I might have said as we were driving away, "I hope you never end up in a wheelchair." In a short time, I'm accumulating so many stories like this one. Before Craig had his own wheelchair, we went to Destiny USA to do some Christmas shopping. They had manual wheelchairs. Now, he can't push himself in a manual wheelchair because he doesn't have the arm strength. So I pushed him all over that mall, but if I hadn't been with him, he wouldn't have been able to go. The scooters were $40 to rent and too big to go in most stores. I sent an email to management and I'm still waiting to hear back. But imagine charging all shoppers a $40 entrance fee at the mall. No one would go. Like, you're going to charge me to spend money in your establishment? I don't think so. But we think nothing of requiring disabled or the mobility impaired to rent wheels or a way to get around. Healthy and able-bodied people are free, the rest have to pay. Imagine if that was on a sign. Now, you may be wondering or wanting to stop me and say, "Kelly, you're crazy. Doesn't the ADA protect you against all this?" It's been 36 years since the ADA, which was the Americans with Disabilities Act, was passed. It was passed in 1990. There's laws that protect you and the disabled. And that is true. The bravest of people crawled up the steps of the Capitol, forcing lawmakers to confront the inequality and lack of civil rights in the built world around us. It is a stunning and raw and heart-wrenching story if you've never really understood what it took to get these laws passed. Google it. It's called the Capitol Crawl. I'm ashamed to admit I didn't know much about it until recently. I was in my 20s when the ADA was passed, and so it's just always been present. And I kind of thought like you did, like, okay, people are protected. I can go on my merry way. Everything's good. Everything's right in the world. But honestly, that was really just my privilege talking, my healthy privilege. What the ADA did was provide equal access in a few areas, the job market, to public spaces, transportation, etc. And there are some nuances to it. Different rules for government buildings versus other commercial versus small business, historical buildings. But in a nutshell, if you provide goods or services to the public, then the entire public should be able to access your space, whether it is a restaurant or a store or a theater, whatever. And at the time, there was a huge opposition to the ADA. Think about that. There were many people, a lot of people, who did not want laws in place that protected the disabled from discrimination. They didn't want laws that would allow disabled people to participate in the built world or the community at large. It doesn't make sense, does it? I mean, why? Why would you be against that? Many people viewed access then, and still do, as a zero-sum game, meaning if they win, I lose. That's what a zero-sum game is. If one side wins, the other has to lose. 1 point given, 1 point taken away. And what was at stake then was money. Their argument was that it cost too much to open up our built world for all people, regardless of their physical abilities. To be honest, if I were arguing the case with those opposers, I would tell them, well, it only costs so much because you built an entire world excluding all of those who have disabilities. That was their privilege. Now, right now, it is your privilege to ignore everything I'm saying and cast it aside. Cross your fingers, and hopefully you, your family, your loved ones are never impacted with your ability to move around. But that's not likely. In the United States, over 70 million adults, more than 1 in 4, live with some type of disability. Of this demographic, nearly 16%, 55 million people, experience difficulties with physical functioning, such as walking unassisted. Another really startling and sobering statistic is that disability prevalence really skews heavily with age, affecting nearly 50% of adults over the age of 65. So it's coming for you or someone that you know. But I believe that if you listen this far, I believe you care. I believe you'd like to help where you can. I think and believe that most people are decent human beings. You may be asking, what can I do? I don't own a business. I don't make the laws. This sucks. I hear you, but I feel for you, but what can I do? Well, I'm glad you asked. First, just be aware. Now that you've heard this message, think about Craig. Think about someone else you know in a wheelchair or who struggles with mobility. You must know someone, or you will someday. Disrupt your healthy privilege thinking with awareness. That's all. I want to call out here, too, that for this episode, I'm focusing on physical mobility specifically, but just know that there are many others to be considered and aware of. The hearing impaired, sight impaired, language, intellectual disabilities, invisible disabilities, so many things to just disrupt your privileged thinking with, your healthy privileged thinking, and just be aware of it as you move throughout this world. Second, the second thing you can do is make it easier. People without the privilege of good health and working legs are struggling. Life is infinitely harder when you have a chronic disease or disability, especially a terminal and progressive one. I mean, they are losing their life. There's nothing harder. But what the rest of us do or don't do can either make it even harder for them, or we can do what we can to make it easier for them to enjoy the life they have in whatever form it comes. So here are some really practical tips to make a hard situation easier for others. At the intersection, don't pull your car into the crosswalk. Just stop doing that. This is a really hard habit to break. It's been hard for me, and I'm still guilty of it. I'm aware of it all the time, but I've been privileged for so long that I'm still working on it. I've gotten a lot better, but just don't pull your car into the intersection. Then people can't cross through the crosswalk in a safe way. Don't block the sidewalks. Don't back your pickup truck and its trailer hitch so tight against the curb that someone on wheels couldn't pass through behind you because you're taking up half the sidewalk. This just happened to us last weekend. We were buzzing around Canandaigua and their beautiful lakefront area, which was amazing and so accessible, and we loved it and had a great time, but a few of the sidewalks were blocked by cars that just pulled way too far in. Whatever company you work at, look around. Are you accessible? Are there things management could do to meet ADA requirements, even if they have a loophole that gets them out of it? If you own a small business, look around your space. Are there steps at the front door? What about inside? Are there steps down to get to the counter or the table? Did you know you could buy an inexpensive and portable ramp to the front door to get someone in? They make threshold covers. You could put a lift in, not an elevator, a lift. Will it cost money? Yes. Is it a zero-sum game? No, because you just expanded your customer base by 25%. I've been a CFO for many years, so I get the cost-benefit analysis, trust me. I understand it's not always feasible to retrofit space. There is funding available. Find it. Small businesses can get $5,000 in tax credits. All businesses can get $15,000 in deductions. There are grants available. But if you can't make your space accessible for all, and I get it if you can't, do what you can to prevent someone from showing up at your door only to be excluded. How do you do that? Be really clear on your website about accessibility so it is easy to find the information. One of the biggest surprises for me recently is how much time I have to spend to figure out if a place is accessible, and if so, in what way. Can we get in the front door? What about after we get inside? Are all the amenities available, or will there be some we can't access? Like I said, we get that not every place can make the changes, but just let us know so that we don't waste the time bringing ourselves there only to be rejected. Make it easier if you can. It's been heartbreaking for us that Craig's 2 favorite restaurants here in Syracuse he can never go to again because they have no access for people using wheels or for those who can't do stairs. It's a bummer, and we'll be okay. We'll find other places, but if there's something you can do to make it easier, do it. And finally, number 3, don't keep score. You don't need to. It's not a zero-sum game. Giving someone else what appears on the surface as special treatment doesn't take anything away from you or your family. It simply levels the playing field. How do you know if you're keeping score? You get mad that you can't park in a handicap spot, or because you have to move to the side to let a wheelchair pass, or you find yourself judging the person. Are they really disabled? They should work out and exercise more, lose weight. They must not have taken care of themselves. I think it can be ingrained in our American culture, and we're conditioned by fear, often by our leaders, and frankly, it's not the best look for us humans. So many of us have a scarcity mindset that we can feel threatened if we feel like someone is getting ahead of us. But we were taught wrong. The universe doesn't work like that. Access is a basic civil right that allows all people, regardless of health status, the ability to participate in society like you do. That's it. It baffles me why such a basic civil right, the ability to move around in this world, has to be such a fight. Craig and I have been mocked and made fun of, refused access to the wheelchair section on a public transportation tram. People absolutely refuse to get out of our way and let us on. People get angry that you're asking for access. Are you one of them? Is it because you believe that if I give access, I'm giving something up? If they get something, it was taken from me? If they get a point, I lose one? Zero-sum game? Or is it because you would rather not see sick people in your daily life? You'd like to avoid looking at sickness in the face, disease, the disabled out of fear, out of disgust, out of judgment, denial? Whatever it is, whatever your privilege has been, my hope with sharing today's episode is that you'll remember these stories that I'm sharing. Many years ago, when I was knee-deep in the corporate world, I was at a conference, and I witnessed something that I saw happen a lot. Someone was getting up to speak or ask a question and was handed a microphone. And the person was shy and waved it off. I don't need a mic. I'm loud enough. Ha ha ha. Can you hear me now? And a woman actually stopped this person and said, no, you will use a microphone so that everyone here has access to what you are saying. And he gave her a look and pushed back at her and resisted. And she said, if you are hearing impaired or sitting way in the back, you're at a disadvantage when there is no microphone used. So yes, you will speak into this mic. Again, I was young at the time, no hearing issues, but this whole scene stayed with me, and I never forgot it. And so now anytime I'm at a place where this same scene plays out, if I can, insist that everyone uses a microphone. So my hope is that you'll remember what I've shared today and consider these things while you're moving about this built world, and maybe look for opportunities yourself to ensure access for all. It is a win-win, not a zero-sum game. This podcast, All There Is, was created to share the human experience, and the center of it all is my belief that how we care for those who need help has an everlasting impact. I believe that if a person's basic needs for their spirit, soul, and body are met, it allows them to keep their corner of the world safe and prosperous for themselves and their families. This is all there is. Is that a zero-sum game? I think not. And I hope after listening to this episode, you challenge your own thoughts about this built world. Do you believe everyone is invited in, or just others like you? Remember the 3 things: be aware, make it easier when you can, and don't keep score. I sincerely thank you for listening all the way to the end of this episode. I appreciate your time. You can listen to all past episodes wherever podcasts are found, or you can go to kellybargabas.com where you can also find them and my books and other materials. Until we meet again, take care.